Hi, this is Tony Barnard from CBS Sports, and I want to tell you, I've been a member of the Bobby Dodd Foundation Board of Directors for many, many years, and I've been proud to do so. And on a day like today, we are reminded yet again about the legacy of Coach Dodd and what he means to the great sport of college football. College football certainly has its issues today, and not only do we need the memory of Bobby Dodd, but we need to always lean on his principles of integrity, honor, scholarship. So very, very important, and they get more and more important by the day. Bobby Dodd set the standard that all other coaches should be measured by. He is truly one of the great minds and the great coaches in the history of college football.
Hi, I'm Ken Hatfield, and I've coached at United States Air Force Academy, Arkansas, Clemson, and Rice University for 27 years, and was very fortunate to be in the teaching field trying to teach leadership through the game of football. The reason to mention that because it's such an honor to be here at the Bobby Dodd Golf Tournament, because there's nobody who set the example for teaching things and the right lessons on and off the field better than Coach Bobby Dodd. And certainly one of his proteges was Frank Broyles, was our coach at the University of Arkansas. And he taught the same qualities to us as players and also when I was a coach there too. This is what life's all about. A lot of things come, a lot of things go, but the truths, the eternal truths, are the things that you teach young people that make them a better person, a better leader when they go on. Nobody's done a better job throughout history than Bobby Dodd, and it's an honor to be here for this tournament. It's an honor for what the tournament gives back to charity and to other people, and that's the only thing that we can do is be an encouragement to someone else, and nobody set a better example of doing that than Coach Bobby Dodd.
Bobby Cremins, retired basketball coach. One of my great memories of coming to Georgia Tech in 1981 was the pleasure of getting to know Coach Bobby Dodd personally. He loved tennis, and he was around Tech a lot, and he gave me some great advice about how to handle Tech people, how to handle academics at Georgia Tech. He said, get to know all the teachers you can, but his players loved him. And he was so beloved by so many people at Georgia Tech. He was Mr. Georgia Tech. And I loved that I had the opportunity to get to know him personally. And he told me some incredible stories. But most of all, he gave me some great advice as a young coach about Georgia Tech. And I'll never forget that. So it's a real pleasure, real honor for me to participate whenever I can in Coach Dodd's golf outing for his memory. It goes to a great cause, and Bobby Dodd legend will always live at Georgia Tech.
My name is Bob Summers. I'm the VP of Sales for Delta Airlines. I'm also a board member of the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Foundation. Very pleased to be out here at the tournament supporting the Bobby Dodd Institute. Delta's been a sponsor of the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year since 1976. We were one of the first sponsors along with Coca-Cola. I've had the privilege to be a part of this board for now 7 years. And although I didn't go to Georgia Tech, over the time that I've been on the board, I've learned really what Coach Dodd stood for. For the most part, a day like today allows us to be able to give back to the Bobby Dodd Institute, allows us all to get together in camaraderie, corporations, the athletic community, and really work with what philanthropically work to support what Bobby Dodd stood for, and that's giving back and representing the ideals of that phenomenal man and fantastic coach.
I'm Dave Bristol from Andrews, North Carolina. I went to Baylor School for Boys in Chattanooga, Tennessee. In 1951 I graduated, and Coach Dodd and Frank Broyles were the two guys that recruited me to come play at Tech. Unfortunately for them, I signed baseball in the spring and never got to play for Coach Dodd, but I always admired him and loved him, and I think I could have played for him because I could pass it and kick it, and he loved the kicking game. What a wonderful person he was, and I'm so happy I'm part of this tournament.
Hi, I'm Ray Goff from the University of Georgia, and as a young boy growing up in South Georgia, I really didn't know a lot about college football except in those days, the only thing I knew about was Coach Dodd, and the reason I knew that, my grandparents ran the motel in Moultrie, Georgia. It's called the Town Terrace Motel, and Coach Dynamite Goodlow used to stay there all the time. And so I got to know Coach Goodlow, and I kind of had an affiliation with Georgia Tech through Coach Goodlow, and then followed it a little bit. And first college football game I ever saw was Florida State, and I thought it was Georgia Tech, but when I got to the game, I realized it was the University of Georgia, which is a little 8-year-old boy. I didn't have a clue who the University of Georgia was, and I was upset because I wanted to watch Georgia Tech. And so, true story, I actually went to the car at halftime and cried the whole second half because I wanted to watch Georgia Tech, and it was the University of Georgia. And of course, then I realized as a player in high school that I'm not sure I would have qualified to play at Georgia Tech. I'm not sure I could have got in school, but I went to the university, and we had a great rivalry with Georgia Tech, and I met Coach Dodd on several occasions, and he's just a tremendous man of integrity and character.
I'm Dabo Sweeney. I'm the head coach at Clemson University. It's good to be back at the Bobby Dodd Golf Tournament today. It's my second year, and I tell you, I had the real, once-in-a-lifetime privilege to win this award in 2011, and it was such an incredible honor and experience for me, and really just a humbling honor because when you think about Bobby Dodd, you know what he stood for. It was more than just winning on the scoreboard. Obviously that's important, but it was more about winning in life and developing young people in the men, and so that they'd go be great husbands, great fathers, and that's what we take a lot of pride in at Clemson. And again, just an honor for me to be here again and to participate, and hopefully it's something that I can do every year and continue to give back to this great foundation, and hopefully represent Bobby Dodd for as long as I coach. Hopefully we can always do it the Dodd way, and with emphasizing scholarship, leadership, and integrity.
It's always great to be a part of the Bobby Dodd tournament, and I think Coach Dodd is one of the very few icons we have in the history of college football whose impact as a player and a coach is still felt today. I never personally knew the man. I have friends throughout not only radio but also through Georgia Tech who obviously were very close to him, but his impact is generational. It's an amazing thing in college football when you're able to do that, and Coach Dodd's clearly one of those people. And his legacy as a coach and administrator at Georgia Tech is still very impactful to the Yellow Jackets today. What he did in terms of his stress of academics, his stress of teamwork, his stress of discipline and organization is still felt through the football program and really through the Institute itself. So it's always a pleasure to be involved. And now all the variances of Coach Dodd's legacy, whether it be scholarship, whether it be the Coach of the Year award, whether it be the Bobby Dodd Institute, all those things have now come into play to honor a man who was so impactful to Georgia Tech and the city of Atlanta and really the Southeast in his life.
Jerry Moore from Appalachian State University. I think the first thoughts I have about Coach Dodd is when I was coaching at SMU with Coach Fry, and we played Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and just the mystique of playing and coaching against a legendary coach like that. And I'd been reading about him. I'd not had a chance to. I'd heard him speak at a couple of clinics also, but the big thing was to play against him down here, and it was a great atmosphere. And then as time went on, I began to read more and pick up flyers and things like that, and see what makes a great coach and really a great person is the fundamentals that you've got. And he was I guess probably one of the best there was at his era, as far as fundamentals are concerned. It was just stressed over and over and over. You can tell it in those teams that he had. It was just a real privilege just to get to play against him. Really didn't get to ever spend much time with him individually, but I read a lot of articles about him, books about him and things like that. And I just always counted it a privilege to get to be in a profession that he was so great at.
Hi, I'm Paul Johnson, head football coach at Georgia Tech. I think I probably have a unique perspective on Coach Dodd since I have the opportunity to walk by his statue every day on my way into work. I think that that speaks volumes of what Coach Dodd meant not only to the football world in general, but to the young men that he had a chance to mentor, that they felt like that he was so valuable to them and helped them mature and grow so much that they wanted to dedicate that statue in his honor. I was fortunate enough to be there when they unveiled it and to see the emotion and the respect and the love that they had for Coach Dodd, I think kind of sets apart what we're in this profession for. So, you know, Coach Dodd's a true legend, and I see it every day.
I'm Wayne McMillan. I'm president and CEO of Bobby Dodd Institute. We're all about empowering people and changing lives and working with people with disabilities and disadvantages by providing employment opportunities. Coach Dodd was a volunteer for the Bobby Dodd Institute back in the 60s. And like Coach Dodd, we emulate building people and building character. And he taught us a great deal about how he used football as a way to develop and build men. And using the same philosophy, we create employment for people with disabilities by training them and getting them prepared for life, developing good habits and discipline. Coach Dodd was a fine example for us, and we believe that we're continuing his legacy now. And I'm so pleased to be a part of the Bobby Dodd Memorial Golf Tournament. We're a recipient of some of the proceeds from the tournament, and we're very happy to be here today.
My name's Tom Beck. I'm a Tech graduate in '73. Played football for the Yellow Jackets from '69 to '72. Currently, I'm the president of my own business. We're a logistics and supply chain consulting company. I go very far back with my memories of Coach Dodd. Actually, my father played for Coach Dodd, Ray Beck. He was an All-American and a College Hall of Famer for Georgia Tech, and I actually spent my first year of life on campus. And it seems like I knew Coach Dodd, you know, ever since I was growing up. Sideline passes, going to the games, going to visit Coach Dodd. I'd like to drop by the AA and visit Coach Dodd, and all my life, you know, heard Coach Dodd's stories about how differently Coach Dodd did things from all the other coaches at the time, and probably still doing things differently than most coaches today. And the things, important things in life that Coach Dodd accentuated with balance and how much fun they had. Particularly preparing for the Orange Bowl. I remember stories about that and what the other team did versus what they did, and how they always really enjoyed and had fun with football, which is, you know, it's easy sometimes for the fun to be taken out of those things. But I think what I always heard from my dad and all the players that played for Coach Dodd that I knew, that how much fun and how much they enjoyed their experience and how much they learned. And how much their character was built from that. And again, I have wonderful memories of Coach Dodd. I've been to his house a couple of times, met his wife. In fact, in his later years, I lived down in Collier Hills for a long time and used to see Coach Dodd over at Bitsy Grant Tennis Center playing doubles and playing little gin with all of his friends. And so the way they prepared for the bowl games and practice even, Coach Dodd did not believe in taking a team, I think, that was worn out and tired into a game. And sometimes when the other teams would perhaps be in full pads or having a full-scale scrimmage, they would be out in shorts and maybe even take a field trip somewhere that day, you know, and have some fun. And so, you know, they you know, particularly for the bowl games, you looked at it as a reward, and they did quite well. I mean, you know, actually for many, many years, Georgia Tech had the best bowl record in college football, and a lot of those bowls were bowls coached by Coach Dodd, and you know, that was one of the things. He said the other teams sometimes was kind of worn out. It didn't seem like they were having that much fun. Always, again, have fond memories of Coach Dodd and all he has meant at Georgia Tech.
Hi, I'm Jim Grove from Wake Forest, and I was privileged to win the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year award. One of my favorite things was when I had the opportunity to meet Coach Dodd. He actually came back when I was coaching at the Air Force Academy and presented his award to Coach Fisher DeBerry at Air Force, and he actually took 2 or 3 hours to sit in with our coaching staff and talk football. So not only was I blessed to win the Coach of the Year award for Bobby Dodd, but also had a chance to meet him and actually talk football. And I can tell you there's nothing that gives me more pride than to be the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year.
Hi, I'm Brian Gregory, head basketball coach at Georgia Tech, and I'm excited about being part of the Bobby Dodd golf outing again this year. One of the things you look at when you talk about all the great coaches through all the different sports, you look at coaches who have impacted their players, their university, and the other coaches that have coached against them or coached for them. Coach Dodd is 3 for 3 on that. He's impacted his student athletes not only for successful careers on the field, but also in the classroom. He made Georgia Tech Institute and its football program a world-class, first-class program. And the coaches that he competed against and worked for have been impacted their entire careers. Again, it's just exciting to be part of another great event today.
I'm Oval James, retired athletic director and football coach for over 53 years and enjoying the good life now. I first met Coach Dodd when I was a young high school coach in Charlotte, North Carolina. My first year out of college, and we had a quarterback that they came in to recruit, and he came to Charlotte, and well, I thought I'd met a legend. I'd seen his teams play during the 50s and early 60s, and when he came into our high school to recruit a player, I thought he was one of the classiest guys that we had that had come in and to recruit some of our players. Unfortunately, the kid didn't go to Tech. His older brother had played at Tech. A guy named Hal Beaver was a quarterback from Charlotte that was on the team at Tech. But Jeff ended up going to North Carolina. But Coach Dodd was certainly a gentleman in every way and represented college athletics and especially college football, and just was he was an icon for all of us young guys growing up. But and later I got into college coaching and coached several years at North Carolina and South Carolina and Auburn, and of course got a chance to know him both as a coach and as also an administrator. And I can't begin to tell you how much he meant to college sports and especially college football.
Hi, I'm Fred Goldsmith, former Division I head football coach at Rice University, Duke University, and then at Lenoir-Rhyne University. In 1995, I was really honored. The greatest honor I've ever received in coaching was the Bobby Dodd Award. And it meant so much to me because I grew up in an era in the South where Bobby Dodd was such an instrumental figure of how to do things the right way, and that so many of my friends played for him at Georgia Tech. From Coral Gables, Florida. They just loved playing for Coach Dodd, and unfortunately I wasn't a good enough student, I wasn't a good enough player to get to play for him in the SEC in those days. But I knew how much that those players admired him, the coaching community later when I became a coach, how everybody looked up to him. He was an innovator. A lot of the things that he did back then, I was fortunate to work under Doug Dickey and then Ken Hatfield, and we'd gotten a lot of those things from Frank Broyles, who had been on Coach Dodd's staff and was the athletic director at Arkansas. So a lot of the ways that really trying not to beat up players during the week, bringing a healthy team to the game on Saturday, having respect for smart players and trying to put that part of the equation into the game, trying to outsmart some people sometimes with those players and to give them responsibility that a lot of teams didn't have. And so it all goes back to the legend of Bobby Dodd, and I just feel honored to be a part of this committee here and to keep the tradition of the Bobby Dodd years alive with his former players here. And it's just a tremendous honor. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Randy Rhino. I'm the middle generation of 3 generations of Rhinos that have played at Georgia Tech. My dad played for Coach Dodd back in the 50s. I played at Tech in the 70s, and my son just got through playing in the 2000s. So we bleed gold and white in my family. I grew up as a kid listening to stories about Coach Dodd from my dad. My dad thought Coach Dodd was his father. I really believe he looked at him as a father figure. I had heard stories about Coach Dodd and the way he treated football players, and it was a dream of mine, hopefully, to play for Coach Dodd one day. He retired, though. I did get a chance as I was being recruited at Georgia Tech to sit down with Coach Dodd. He was still the athletic director then. And I was at that time considering University of North Carolina. And when Coach Dodd looked at me and said, "Son, I coached your dad, and you need to come to Georgia Tech," and that's all I needed to hear. And I went ahead and committed to Georgia Tech that very day after talking to Coach Dodd. It's a real thrill for me to play in this tournament, and have my family will always think very highly of Coach Dodd.
Hey, Justin Hahnemann, a member of the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year board, and real excited to be here at the Bobby Dodd Golf Tournament. And this event is really special because it's a way for us to really bring together many leaders, not only in the athletic community, but in the business community, and for a great cause. And that cause is the Bobby Dodd Institute. And so as a board member, I certainly see the value in investments like this, and in thinking about Bobby Dodd and what he stood for, and the type of coach that he was, that's really the ideals that we want to be instilling in the young people of today.
My name is Ralph Friedgen. I'm a former coach at Georgia Tech for 9 years, former head coach at the University of Maryland, former recipient of the Bobby Dodd Award, which is probably one of my most cherished Coach of the Year awards. I have a great love for Georgia Tech and what Bobby Dodd created here, and I'm very, very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to play in this golf tournament every year.
I'm Stan Gann, and I played at Georgia Tech under Coach Bobby Dodd, one of the best coaches that ever coached football. I'm a class of probably 62, 63, maybe 64. But anyway, I did graduate. And one thing I remember about Coach Dodd is before we even signed the papers to go there, he said, "You stick with it and you're going to graduate." And he was a man of his word. Every time he opened his mouth, he was quite a human being. And he treated us all like that, all the players. He treated everybody the same, and he made sure that we did what our mamas and daddies wanted us to do. What a great man he was, and of course still is, in our estimation. And I can remember back when I was in grammar school, Grade Y football, which was really nothing organized like it is today. But Coach Dodd would come to those games and see us play. He was everywhere. And, of course, to him, Georgia Tech was his life. And I think if you talk to any of our guys on the teams that I played on, it's a big, big part of their lives. It's a great institution. And what he did, he bonded us together as a family, not just as a team, but really as a family. When you hear people talk about we're a family, you know, you're not really sure about that, but I believe we really were. We didn't talk about it, but I think we really were. I just got back from a meeting with my teammates for the 30th consecutive year, which we meet every year down in Florida, and we've been trying to play golf. We don't do very well at it now, but we still get together. We haven't lost too many, which we're proud of. But we've been doing this for 30 consecutive years. And we all contribute this to him. He was the index, he was the foundation, he was the base of most of our lives, which, we were in those formative years, and we had to learn a lot while we were there, not just from Georgia Tech, but about life, and he really could do that. We just couldn't be any luckier than to have Coach Dodd as our coach.